All right, so you guys know what my policy is on breaking news coverage. I only look at like whatever the official sources are saying. I try not to get into like additional speculation, stuff like that. There was a shooting that occurred in Brooklyn. As far as we know, it seems premeditated with like someone using gas and like gas masks and whatnot. A lot of the things that people are criticizing in this situation, what most are criticizing in this situation, of course, revolve around how the NYPD has added cops in the subway by Eric Adams, and didn't, more cops is not stopping this sort of thing from occurring. Another Djibouti banger. Oh, Jesus. It's a shame the shooter didn't jump the turnstile because NYPD would have been caught him by now. That is a good tweet. Guys, I don't think you guys understand. The New York Police Department, with a budget larger than most countries' standing militaries, has a lot to do on their hands. Okay, there's always a cop stationed at these stations. Okay, well, I mean, they're working hard, coughing on people without wearing masks, harassing random black teenagers, beating the shit out of people when they avoid fares, hazing them even in certain instances, grabbing them by their fucking hair and dragging them. This is the important work that goes into the everyday existence of being an NYPD boys in the blue police officer. Okay, to make matters worse, they've been defunded. Okay, they've been defunded. I mean, goddamn, dude. Instead of getting $7 gorillion, they're getting $6.9 gorillion in extra funding this year. Okay, their additional funding that they were supposed to get has been shaved by $0.0001 gorillion. That is a whole ass, that's wild. This, of course, impacts their morale. Cancel culture impacts their morale. They're worried that if they do their job, they're going to get canceled for it. By the way, everything I'm saying right now, you're going to hear from cops. Yeah, they were too busy destroying an encampment where houseless people live. So they couldn't get to this, okay? That's probably what the anti-terror unit was doing. Eric Adams is already saying wild shit. Speaking on Brian Layler, New York City mayor says he's going to double the number of police officers in the city subway system in the wake of this morning's shootings. Oh, fucking sick, dude. So double this, save your money, and don't bother. I mean, what are they supposed to do? Be vigilant? Like, come on. Like, there is no black teenager running over the turnstile, okay? They don't need to attack at this moment. And look, this cop isn't even doing littering. He's actually throwing a trash out. You're just showing cops doing good stuff now. It's just like, this is such a New York story, specifically because while this is a obviously horrific tragedy, it's incredibly commonplace in the United States of America, where our schools are a fucking shooting gallery. And so is the, subway, train station, the limited amount of public transit we have in an otherwise somewhat walkable city like New York. But more importantly than anything else, this is such a fucking quintessential time to shit on the New York Police Department story, because everybody hates this. Like, people in New York despise this shit because most rich people don't take the fucking subway. So, they fucking hate it. Most people that do take the subway hate this shit because their presence is not exactly welcoming or even in any capacity making people feel safe. The reason why I never feel safe around cops is because even in this situation, they got guns, brother. It's a group of fucking psychotic, oftentimes super reactionary weirdos with guns that can literally kill you with no repercussions whatsoever. So why the fuck wouldn't I be feel uncomfortable around that? And also, I've had cops point guns at me as well. It's not fun, is all I'm saying. None of these things are fun experiences, and it just builds up after a while where you're like, I kind of have a resentment, especially because I guess cover non-fucking stop the kind of brutal actions that they commit regularly. So yeah, I guess I'm wild for having a take like this, but I don't personally think that it's cool to have a fucking paramilitary of untrained, unfit, unaccountable psychos who could just kill you on the spot and get away with it. I don't know. I personally think that's wild that we just kind of allow that to continue happening. But yes, friendly reminder for the EU chatters, it takes more hours of training to become a licensed barber, electrician, or a plumber in the US compared to a police officer. The worst part about it is let me tell you something. I'm not against the concept of a group of individuals that are supposed to uphold our law and order, okay? It's a they have a fundamental role to play in society, but in theory, it's supposed to protect and serve the interests of the citizens. You got the fucking crazy detectives that are out there solving crime, shit like that. Except that's just in the movies, motherfucker. In the real world, all they're doing is beating the shit out of protesters and like protecting and serving the interests of capital. Police ask help from landlords. There you go. The Los Angeles Police Department is having such a difficult time attracting recruits that leaders plan to seek help from the business community. Specifically, LA's landlords will be asked to voluntarily subsidize apartments for police recruits for 2 years. That way, those incoming officers can afford to live in the city. Oh my God. The problem isn't cops having guns. The problem is shit training they can stumble through and still pass with honors. I mean, it's a bit column A, bit column B, you know? There's a lot of, it's just all of it, dude. The entire fucking system is fundamentally designed to basically churn out the exact same outcomes of like what slave patrols did, okay? It's just hidden under like multiple layers of civility. That's the difference. It's not just shit training, guys. The point is there's supposed to be shit. The lack of training is like kind of a part of it. It plays a role in what the cops are supposed to do because victims of police are always going to be what the wealthy, civilized society would consider transients, you know, vagrants, homeless people, poor people, sex workers, minorities, marginalized communities. So the amount of brutality that you subject those derelict undesirables in the eyes of the bourgeois is fine. That's okay. Mentally ill people, exactly. It's all right. That's like kind of the point. You're supposed to fucking beat the shit out of them. They're bad. They're wrong. They need to know their place. Their place is very far away from us wealthy folk, okay? Us good citizens, us productive members of society. The New York Times responded to a mass subway shooting with a relentless string of propaganda. Let's look closely at how the New York Times used the crisis to boost police talking points and lies in some creative ways. I love Alec Karakatsanis, Equality Alec, who is the founder and executive director of the Civ Rights Corps. I rely on his data regularly. Very good at this stuff, effectively combating propaganda in the media all the time. First, New York Times used a mass shooting to direct readers to unrelated articles awash in police talking points. I've separately addressed the reporting that New York Times tried to use the mass shooting to get more attention to here. The whole, like, here's what you need to know. Shooting in subway comes amid rising gun violence across the city. Tuesday's shooting is reminiscent of a string of other incidents in recent years. A rise in shootings has rattled the city and colored perceptions of public safety. This is subtle, but the New York Times is making a political move here. It is linking a unique mass shooting event by a lone gunman to the kinds of daily crime stories it has been writing, suggesting, contrary to evidence, that neighborhood crime is out of control. This is at the top of the story. They say it's reminiscent of a string of other incidents in recent years. How so? Why are they trying to shoehorn this into a trend when the abnormal characteristics are what makes it most concerning? Like, this is not happening on a daily basis. People aren't like doing targeted fucking strikes at the Brooklyn subway stations every week, okay? There isn't like a fucking targeted strike happening with like smoke with potentially smoke grenades and shit. Like, that would be fucking wild, okay? Second, did you notice that the New York Times markets these 3 propaganda articles as what you need to know? A pernicious aspect of the New York Times is this decade-long effort not to just shape people's views of the world, e.g. more cops is good, but to tell them that it is all the news that's fit to print. New York Times narrowly curtails our worldview and then convinces us that this is all we need to know. Third, let me take a note out of many bad things of these pieces. The lead article on the shooting today did not mention that the U.S. is an outlier in the availability of guns or poverty or inequality or lack of mental health care, or that New York just added more cops to the subways. I think that is the worst part. That last part is the fucking worst part. If your job is to inform the people, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're not going to talk about how, like, actually what we need is more guns and more cops. Okay, well, what about the fact that there were more cops? Like, they had added more cops recently. Eric Adams is like a cop. Eric Adams is literally a cop. I mean, he is and has very actively mentioned how he needs to do more policing, like how he's going to do Rudy Giuliani style fucking he's going to be a Rudy Giuliani style cop mayor. Nowhere in the articles about the shooting is the possibility raised that all these investments in new cops didn't and can't stop events like this. Nowhere is the scientific consensus mentioned. Violence is mostly not a function of police at all. Why is this missing? Who benefits? What does the New York Times do instead? It points to readers of fabrication by the NYPD that a recent decline of 9 homicides in an arbitrarily selected 3-month period was due to a surge of arrests. Let me be clear. The timing of this doesn't add up and not a shred of evidence supports it. Yeah, it's because they were finally fucking arresting criminals. That's why it stopped. People are like, oh man, I was going to do, a lot of crimes, but I'm going to stop doing doing crimes now because I can't get away with it. Like, that's fucking stupid. That's not, if that was the case, America would have a 0% crime rate, dude. We literally jail the most. We jail more than anyone else. Either something is in the fucking water and every American is a twisted freak that is like bloodthirsty and constantly wants to do crime non-fucking stop, or maybe this kind of draconian attitude is not actually a viable deterrence measure as indicated by a billion empirical studies. And even theorists and philosophers from fucking ancient Greece were talking about crime being linked to socioeconomic conditions. It's not like this is a new thing. Crime manifests as a consequence of your material conditions, okay? We've known this from like day fucking one. Not socialism to say this. The stakes are enormous. New York Times lets police make stuff up, suggesting a link between 4,000 arrests in March to shooting declines in January and February. This would be laughable if it weren't leading millions of people into thinking that there is some connection between these mass arrests and murder prevention. Fourth, the New York Times editors went in and altered the initial factual headline to create a narrative. This was a choice. Why? Who benefits from creating this constant fear? I mean, did it? Do we have instant polling? The original was a statement of fact. The second is an editorializing empirical claim. Several people shot in Brooklyn subway station to shooting in Brooklyn subway station heightens simmering fears about public safety. What is happening? Where'd this come from? Fourth, the New York Times editors went in and altered the initial factual headline. As I've noted, major corporate media have huge incentives to play up fears over certain kinds of harm, but to ignore far larger harms, obviously. And fifth, the New York Times also uses the opportunity to link to Eric Adams defending the return to brutal, illegal, and ineffective broken windows policing. Incredibly, the New York Times asserts as a fact that the goal of such policing was to prevent more serious crime. Mr. Adams is a former police officer, remember, as I've said, Eric Adams, memeable, but also kind of dangerous, if you understand what his attitude is about crime and how to solve it. Has sought to reassure residents, has made tackling gun crime a central focus of his administration. He recently deployed 7 new anti-gun police units, and last month, the police department began to enforce so-called quality of life matters, recalling the city's embrace of broken windows policing, the stricter enforcement of low-level offenses in an effort to prevent more serious crimes. This New York Times fact would come as a surprise to the generation of scholars who have demonstrated that such policing was about controlling certain populations, serving interests of developers, part of an explicit gentrification strategy, boosting overtime pay, racial control, etc. This is just pure political propaganda to couch the very specific goals of elite capitalists and police union enforcers as ostensibly about preventing crime. It was never about that, and New York Times doesn't even suggest anyone thinks otherwise, which is unreal. They want to do this shit because they make more money as a consequence of these attitudes, as a consequence of like working this way. It's the fun type of work, okay? It's the fun type of work. You get to effectively have carte blanche to harass whatever minority you want to, for example, under the auspices of stop and frisk being somehow connected to decreasing gun violence when it is completely just a fucking gigantic failure. Wild. That like anyone could even be like, oh, we got to do this again. Actually, it was pretty good. It's like never worked. It never worked. Yes, widespread crime is great. Brother, not a single person is saying this. That's not a concept. As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm fucking pissed off is because the cops aren't doing what they're supposed to. You get so fucking mad when you pay your taxes and it goes to like, I don't know, the new laser-guided munition system that fucking Raytheon is developing that is going to zap brown children in Yemen from a million miles away, okay? And that's understandable. You're like, oh, our budget is inflated. Our American military budget is so crazy, okay? But when it comes to like also the American version of that, the domestic military force that we have in the form of policing, not achieving the fundamental goal that it has, which is to stop crime, okay? You're like, no, the problem is too severe. We need to give more money. We need to give them more money. What do you want? Should they have javelin missiles, dude? Is that gonna stop it? Should they just be able to fucking vaporize someone with a laser? Maybe then there will be less crime. Judge Dredd style, just fucking walk around and just put one in the back of people's heads. Because they kind of do that already. It doesn't feel like it's stopped anything. Why would a cop put his life in danger for $72K a year? Are you on crack? Okay, then they shouldn't exist then, I guess. Is that your argument? It's their fucking job. Just like my job is to serve you the top of the hour ad break, okay? And, you know, you might not like it, but that's what I do. What about firefighters? They also risk their lives for a salary, yet we don't ask if they put out fires. Yeah, that's fucking, it's crazy. I know. Like, that's the other thing. Like, yeah, firefighters get similar benefits, okay? And they perform an incredibly important fucking role. Could you imagine if firefighters were just starting fires nonstop instead of putting them out? Like the firefighter shows up down the street and you're like, oh, fuck, here we go, dude. and they just start lighting up houses on fire. They have flamethrowers, and then we're just sitting there and we're like, we need to give more money to these firefighters. I think that'll stop it. Like, that's the only way that they can. That's the only way that we can solve this problem. And then they're like, hey man, there's a fire right here. Can you help me? And he's like, shut the fuck up, bitch. And then he fucking burns you with a flamethrower. By the way, that story that I just crafted here sounds insane, right? It sounds insane to you because you're a sane person. That's literally a one-to-one comparison to how cops operate. And when you defend them, you're defending that firefighter analogy, okay? You literally are just like, no, it's fine that cops come in and, just fucking shoot people, ask questions later, and that's it. Do you believe that a majority of cops are bad, corrupt? I think that they might start off with honorable intentions because, the media makes it seem like you're a savior. But the entire system of policing, albeit is a very important and I would go so far as say necessary structure in any sort of organized, civilized society, is fundamentally flawed in the United States of America. So it basically takes you and turns you into, when you go through that institution of policing in America, it turns you into a bad person. You could be a good person otherwise. Maybe you're a good person in your real life, even though 40%, not exactly great. But statistically speaking, cops, maybe not so great in their real lives as well. But, 60%, maybe they're good, okay, in their normal lives when they're fucking cooking up brats, when they're your uncle and, they're not being creepy, right? But when they put the fucking badge on, when they put the vest on and they are patrolling the streets, they are enforcing an unjust system, okay, and unjust laws that are designed specifically to fuck over the most marginalized people in society. And therefore, in the act of operating as a policeman, it is incredibly difficult for them to be good. Because in most instances, for them to be good, they need to literally violate the rules that were set in place and not enforce them. And sometimes they do. And you know what happens to those good cops? They get fucking fired. That is, of course, if they're not killed. So that's why people say ACAB, all cops are bad, or all cops are bastards, or whatever the fuck, okay? Firefighter arson is a persistent phenomenon involving a minority of firefighters who are also active arsonists. It has been reported that roughly 100 U.S. firefighters have convicted of arson each year. What the fuck? Wait, that's insane. So with all the extra clicks the New York Times gets from a breaking shooting, it used the opportunity to stoke fear, steer readers to police lies, highly dubious assertions portrayed as fact, and science-denying suggestions that more cops and not less inequality is an answer to violence. I feel like a broken record, but it's warranted because the New York Times is a broken record. With all the breathless stories about violence, all types of crime in New York City and the United States are near historic lows. People literally don't believe this actual fact because of news coverage like this. An emergency focusing on interpersonal crime committed by poor people is being manufactured before our eyes, and the same news institutions do not provide the same urgency to genuine threats to human civilization. Here's a cat. Here's his cat that jumped in a box this morning.
Right now, the current count was about 29 people that were injured. We're outside NYU Langone in Brooklyn, where there are still about 11 patients inside. Their injuries range from everything from gunshots to smoke inhalation. As you remember, this happened more than 6 hours ago now, around 8:30 during the height of rush hour, and a smoke device was let off in the subway car, and the gunman started shooting. But this is still a very active situation. The manhunt is underway. We know that the suspect is about 5'5", a black male, overweight. He was wearing a gas mask and a green vest on that subway when he started this attack this morning. We also know that Mayor Eric Adams told our local
people say more cops will solve this issue, but there are 1,000 new cops in the last couple of months that Eric Adams placed in the subway system. 1,000 new cops were placed within the subway system. So what the fuck happened? That didn't stop. More cops quite literally and directly did not stop this crime from occurring.
CBS affiliate here in New York that the security cameras on board that subway station were not working. And so that is something that we have been waiting all day for, to have some sort of picture of this suspect who has been on the run now for more than 6 hours.
Americans are just at this point, mass shootings happen very frequently. I mean, they happen so much that hey, guess what? Nobody died. So, who cares? GG's. Oh, you got a bullet lodged in your leg. Fuck it. You know what I mean? That's unironically our take at this position at this point in time, which is pretty cool. Nobody died. So we're good. Let's figure it out. Let's keep it going.
That the people of the entire state of New York stand with the people of this city, this community, and we say no more. No more mass shootings. No more disrupting lives. No more.
I mean, who the fuck was saying yes, more mass shootings? Like, brave take from the governor, Kathy Hochul. She's right.
PD.
Actually, what am I saying? You're right. Literally, the NRA and head conservatives are for more shootings. That's true. I apologize. I want to rescind a statement that I made earlier erroneously. It was a claim that was actually incorrect. I said, what American is actually asking for more mass shootings? I forgot that the other party involved in this quite literally does advocate for more mass shootings, like regularly. Let us not forget the famous Florida program in the aftermath of the Parkland shooting. The only, some would say, legislative action in Florida was to arm teachers. That was the way to stop mass shootings. So yeah, you're right. Cops are literally guys showing up with guns and asking everyone what the fuck happened. They don't protect anyone. Well, they were also there while this was happening, for the record. So it's not just like they showed up afterwards and were like, what's going on? What's happening here, guys? They were also there during this as well. But, you know, good guy with a gun, not exactly. I mean, this also seems like one of those cases where it is unique. So there are obvious things that we can do to like try to prevent more mass shootings from happening that we don't even talk about anymore. Like, you know, gun laws. It's just, we're just going to keep, you know, I don't know. We're just not going to do any of that. No, the shooter did not get caught. I have a question. What the fuck are guys with guns going to do to stop an active shooter on a packed subway train? Help with more bullets? No, I that's why I said this is a unique circumstance anyway. It's just wild that the cameras aren't working. Like that's the worst part about this is that these motherfuckers have like 24/7 surveillance on everything and anything. And they use that surveillance to like catch people after the fact, like when they hop the fucking turnstile or whatever without paying, okay? Like the fare avoiders. But then the moment that there's like actual fucking crime occurring, they're like, oops, cameras didn't work. The fuck is that? And I don't even think that's sussy, dude. Like Jeffrey Epstein camera's not working. That's sussy. Camera's not working at the subway station. Not exactly sussy. Why? Because it's all in a state of disrepair. Like, please read regarding New Yorkers just being built different. Yeah, New Yorkers are not still heading to work because we are built different. We're still heading to work because the cost of living here is so expensive that we cannot afford to miss days, including when a mass shooting happens at our transit services. I mean, it's true. If this dude gets away with it, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, okay? How, dude? It's like the most public, most crowded fucking area. God damn, dude. At least they found the U-Haul in the van. The U-Haul van sought in connection to the Brooklyn subway shooting. At least if he gets away with it, they won't be able to use it as a justification for needing cops. Wait, what? You think that's going to work? Cops don't solve crimes anyway. And people still say we need more cops as though they are like stopping crime, let alone solving it after crime has happened. So no, they're going to say that regardless, my friend. That's never going to change. That's an unchanging fact. What? In what world do you think people are going to be like, oh, wow, the incompetent police force flubbed this once again, couldn't find a single goddamn fucking guy that opened up on the fucking N train in Brooklyn. If cops solve this case, then they're going to be like, look at our brave boys in the blue solving cases like they always do. Okay, once again, you know, our brave boys in the blue have done it again. They solve all the crimes and they prevent it from happening. If they don't solve it, then it doesn't matter because they haven't been solving anyway. So they're still going to turn around and be like, well, it was because we were defunded. We need more money and guns.